Welcome to Milestone Moments, the show where we explore the journeys that lead to success. I'm Sheila Slick, your host and founder of 5 Milestones. In every episode, we will bring you insights from the minds of entrepreneurs, leaders, and experts who will share not just their expertise, but the milestone moments that have reshaped their journeys and led to significant achievements. So if you're looking for motivation, you're in the right place. Subscribe now and discover the milestones that mark the path to success. Welcome to another episode of Milestone Moments in Business and Leadership. I'm Sheila Slick, your host. And today, my special guest is Dr. Heath. Dr. Heath is a dual PhD neuropsychologist and forensic psychologist with over 30 years of experience as the chief clinician at Civil Psych LLC. As a self-described neuromechanic and cognitive toolbox expert, he specializes in translating complex brain science into practical tools for entrepreneurs, innovators, and business leaders. And whether he's resolving relationship kerfuffles or coaching leaders to reprogram their mental operating systems, he blends science, shoe leather practicality, and a dash of wit to turn complex psychological challenges into actionable insights and life-changing game plans. Welcome to the show, Dr. Heath.
Well, it's great to see you, Sheila. How are you today?
Well, after that intro, that was quite complex. Let's think 101. Tell us a little bit about what that means. What do you do? And how did you get to doing what you do today?
Gosh, how I got to where I am is really kind of extended story, but I guess to really boil it down to its bare bones is I wanted to figure out why my family was the way my family was, why they couldn't get along, and how I could kind of understand their behavior, why they did what they did. And I first thought that in college I would be a systems analyst for computer systems. This is way back in the infancy of home computers in the early 80s. But then I was introduced to human behavior in the social environment. So we had HB and SC1 and HB and SC2. And the guy that taught HB and SC1, the professor that taught it, Michael Cumnock, was a bit of kind of a younger version of Sigmund Freud, and maybe a combo of Sigmund Freud and David Leary or Ram Dass, one of these hippie-like guys. And Michael wears sandals to all his classes. And I thought, wow. And he had this big beard, really dark beard with just a sprinkling of gray hair. And he was so laid back, and I thought, man, that guy has it all together. How do you get to be like that guy? And it turns out, HBNSC is about human behavior, as it says in the social environment. It was a social work course for the social work track. And so really early on, I declared a major in social work first. But with that, you have to take some psychology courses. So I fell in love also with another really miniature female version of Sigmund Freud. If you've ever seen the movie The Incredibles, the tailor, the fashion designer, the little bitty lady, the fashion designer, well, that was Dr. Ann Rhodes. And I just loved her. And I became a proctor for her courses. I became a director of the psychology lab, declared a major in psychology. And I was just, a lot of kids are addicted to drugs. I was addicted to just learning new things. I didn't even have to know what I was going to do with those things. I just, grew up that way. I grew up kind of by myself, because my dad was working a lot, because we lost my mother when we were younger. And so I really kind of viewed my bedroom as the bat cave and stayed in there reading books all day. And so I just really loved learning and fell in love with the study, the majesty, the mystery of what makes us tick psychologically. Then I wrapped up 4 undergrad degrees. I added a degree in speech, I added a degree in religion and philosophy because I'm a believer and I just love the theology aspect of that. By the way, one of my department heads in philosophy also taught religion and theology courses. I kid you not, Dr. Robert K. Holyer. Yeah, Dr. Holyer, my religion professor, Holyer. And then I went on and got a master's in social work, got a master's in psychology, and then I got a dual PhD in neuropsychology, which is really the study of brain based behavior, how, the brain drives behavior, studying all those wiring patterns that shape decision making and habits and make us, we have blind spots in our relationships. If you're a innovator, entrepreneur, business person, CEO, CTO, even at that level, you have blind spots in your thinking. And in neuropsychology, we use tests to really measure how people think, how they solve problems, how they make choices, and especially under pressure. And then the forensic psychology is, think of that in a courtroom. And so how that works out day to day with me is I'll get a referral in possibly a personal injury case, and you can do measurements between how the person was before the injury accident, where they should have been based on their trajectory earlier in life, like in high school or college or whatever, and where they should, where they should be. And then the difference in that, the difference of where they are after the injury and where they wind up is, there's a dollar amount that can be attached to that. I spend most of my time doing return to duty assessments for people who, they were naughty and they took a drug they really, weren't supposed to take. And you can't be flying an airplane or driving a train or a boat on the river, pushing, barges, or working in the pipeline industry, anything covered by the U.S. Department of Transportation, if you've taken a naughty drug. So that's kind of how I got to where I am. And I like to break down brain science in a practical way where people can kind of understand it. And the shoe leather psychology thing came from my dad. My dad would always talk about, putting some shoe leather on things, getting out there, getting active with it. And so I try to break, complex psychological concepts down to a shoe leather level.
Well, you did great just now because I understood everything.
Oh, thank you. Fantastic.
So, as a neuropsychologist and a forensic psychologist, how does that unique background shape your approach to solving the leadership challenges of entrepreneurs and innovators and high achievers?
Well, that's a great question. The problem is, even really, really smart people, they know what they think, but they don't know why they think it. Okay, so keep that in mind. They don't know how they arrived at that way of thinking. So if you don't have some idea of where a thought process started, you're not going to be able to use thought processes to get you where you want to be. Because in many ways, our thought processes are like maps that we're creating on the fly. And we're creating those maps on the fly from what you might consider as a pyramid of consciousness. So if you think of a pyramid, and I actually have a picture of it, I'll try to pull it up and show you if you guys are going to watch this live. I made it with AI, and AI and I worked together for a long time to kind of come up with this because I'm not an artist. But you can think of it as a kind of a pyramid shaped stack of pancakes. And so, in this pyramid shaped stack of pancakes, of course, the largest plateau is at the very bottom. But the larger the plateau, the more it's going to be off of your radar. It's really more or less a reservoir that your consciousness pulls from. But also in that reservoir, some of those thought processes leach and seep up to the top into our conscious awareness. And this is why I'll just take, a far example, from psychopathology of post-traumatic stress disorder. I've had soldiers who would be driving down the road and run their car into a ditch. There's no other cars around, no catastrophe, no accidents. But what is there is a cardboard box. Now, what would you guys do if you saw a cardboard box on the road? You're probably going to just run over the box. Well, why wouldn't a soldier who has been in country in Afghanistan or Iraq or somewhere else, Somalia, wherever, not want to run over a cardboard box? Well, in the moment, they don't know because their subconscious has taken over. The part of their subconscious that is on autopilot has taken over. And their subconscious is saying, danger, danger, danger. Now, they don't know that it's their subconscious saying, danger, danger, danger. They just have fear. But fear is like your smoke alarm. But it would be like being on autopilot every time your smoke alarm went out. You ran outside and called the fire department. So this running in the ditch instead of over the cardboard boxes on autopilot because their survival in a war-torn country depended on it, because what could it be? It could be an IED. So in the moment they're not thinking IED, they're just hearing the alarm bell go
What's
off
IED?
and they take action.
Sorry, what's IED?
An improvised explosive device.
Okay. Yeah, no.
It's a cobbled together with car parts and whatever you can find at Radio Shack. I'm making that up. There's whatever you can find, in electronic stores, into making something that goes boom and kills people, like American soldiers and British soldiers and French soldiers and people that were fighting the Australian soldiers, Canadian soldiers. And so the improvised explosive device, so they did not see a box. They saw an improvised explosive device. Now, was there really an improvised explosive device on the road in Main Street America? No. I mean, not usually. A very small percentage of the time, I've never even heard of an ID in the States in a really long time. But since they were habituated to looking at it that way, and I was looking up a picture of the subconscious to show your guests that may be watching on camera a really pretty picture here that looks just like this. Let me see if I can make sure that's on camera. And so this is your subconscious, and all of this information saying IED, bomb, 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 bomb is not at the top, it's at the bottom. Well, let's talk about something else is at the bottom. Have you walked anywhere today? Well, do you remember how you walked? Did you start out with your right foot or your left foot? How long a step did you take? See, none of that is in your conscious awareness. It is recessed down to the very base of that pyramid of consciousness, which includes conscious awareness. Okay. These are things that are in the spotlight of our awareness. You're hearing the sound of my voice. If you're looking at me on camera, you know that you're seeing me on camera. Okay. All these things are in the spotlight. And then you have things that are either at the periphery of the spotlight or just off outside of the spotlight, but you could become easily aware of those. Like, are you wearing shoes or not? When's the last time you thought about your shoes? You may know that, you may not know that. So there are things that you could easily become aware of, and that's what I call the subconscious. But then there's things, and this is where it gets really spooky, Sheila. There's things that even I would be hard pressed to come up with. And here's one, and we call it source amnesia, such as, what are the names? Name an ocean. Name an ocean. Okay, now tell me, who told you that? Who taught you that that is the name of that ocean? You probably don't know. And you don't know because your brain has put that on autopilot, or it never stored that as information. But let's just say that it did store it, and you can work really hard, think about it for a day or two, and come up with it. Well, that's what I call the unconscious. So, three basic levels across the pyramid of consciousness. The unconscious, that's off the stage. the subconscious at the periphery of the spotlight, and conscious awareness. You know that we're doing a podcast here. You may know that if we're wearing glasses or not. Sometimes that kind of goes back and forth in and out of the spotlight. So a lot of my work is helping people understand how their brain works. Literally, if you think of it in terms of being a diesel mechanic, it's like coming to a Votech for diesel mechanics, except for we're doing neuromechanics so that you could work on not your own diesel engine, but you could work on the mechanics of your own brain, which really puts you deeper in the mix of how you think. You can decide what to think. You can decide what type of thinking points your life in the proper direction. And so I teach people the neuromechanics of how their brain works and how they can apply that to whatever career, relationship, pursuit, solving a problem they might have had for decades or their whole life.
Interesting. So you have over 30 years of experience coaching executives and entrepreneurs. What pattern of thinking have you found that most consistently holds back brilliant business leaders?
Probably, to throw you a bit of a curveball, I think that the biggest thing that hold really smart people back is their realization that they're really smart people. And how does that work? Well, because the more you do a thing, the faster the brain gets at it. The more you do a thing, the more the brain recesses it down through those different levels of consciousness, which means that you're really less aware of it. And then you don't have to pay attention to it. You can just do it. Well, that opens the door to a psychological phenomenon called over assimilation. Over assimilation is taking a tool that has worked well for you in situation 1, 2, 3, 33, 337, situation number 3769. And since you've done it so much, you think it's going to work well for you in situation 4,000, but maybe not. Maybe not. So the more you do a thing, the faster you get at it. But it's really amazing to me that even though that can be very deeply, a very deeply coded process and a very automatic process, that it can also be a very shallow process, not realizing that this tool may not be, and when I say tool, I'm talking about a thought process, that the way I'm thinking about this may not work that well in this particular situation. And so the brain really, and Tversky and Kahneman called it system 1, system 2 thinking. So system 1 thinking is really, really fast, but it's really, really shallow. I'll give an example of 2 different processes in the brain. It's not exactly a location. It's more of a process. One is called ventral flow, and ventral just means bottom. And the other is dorsal flow. So you can think of the dorsal fin of a shark or a dolphin. So dorsal's on top, ventral's on bottom. So there's a process, and I'm pointing right over my right ear, loops through here from the temporal lobe up. And that is what is very slow, but it's very deep. It's like, hey, this is not just a human I'm looking at on the screen. This is Sheila. And oh, I know some things about Sheila. She runs 5 Milestones LLC. And she builds websites. See, all this information that I know about Sheila is not fast. Okay. So the other system is the dorsal flow system, which is really, really fast, but really, really shallow. Here's what a shark does. A shark will look at something in the water that is long and dark and think that it's food. And it may be food. It could be a dolphin, or a porpoise or something. But it may be Sheila on a surfboard. Sheila's shaking her head for you guys that are listening on audio. She's not into this example
Because I live by the beach, and that's you're hitting one of my biggest fears.
and it would
is seeing
take
a huge animal in the water.
Yeah, yeah, but it would take a bite out of Sheila, not because it likes the taste of Sheila, but because it only has a dorsal flow process, which is simply light or dark. When you throw in color, it becomes a slower process. Think of your 4K TV, which runs much slower than a black and white TV because there's so many colors. You know, we want 5 million colors on our TV, but that takes up a lot of processing power. It's the same way with a shark. And it's also the same way with people. So back to our entrepreneurs, they will look at things and think they can use a fast, shallow process and solve a problem. And sometimes they can. But this may be a new problem. This may be a different animal altogether. It may be a different Sheila altogether, a different surfer altogether, a different wave of life or wave of business altogether. And they need to stop, breathe, and think. SBT, stop, breathe, think, stop, breathe, think, stop, breathe, think. Think at a deeper level, but deeper level thinking requires slower thinking. And so the thing that I do with folks and the thing that I find that sabotages them the most is confusing situations that require fast, shallow thinking. There's lots of those, or situations that require slower, deeper thinking. Sharks only have a dorsal flow process because they're just always looking for food, you know. And if it looks like a dolphin, swims like a dolphin, shaped like a dolphin, I'm going to take a bite of it and it's surfboard, even though it may be Sheila.
I didn't like that example at all, by the way. We were to go back, we'd have to use a different example. So, can you share a simple habit that can help leaders, individuals improve themselves?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I have a lot of them, but I would say learn to breathe. You know, most people don't know how to breathe. I remember one of my favorite movies, based on some of my favorite books. The series of books was called, of all things, The Destroyer. You know, it sounds much more terrible than it really is. It's really a comedy action series where the master of Sinanju, which doesn't exist, it's made up, right? Sinanju, the world's most deadly martial art, but it's made up. And Chun is the reigning master, Chiun. You can look this up. They made a movie out of it back in '84, something like that, and called Remo Williams, The Adventure Begins. And Chun was teaching Remo how to breathe, but he couldn't get it. So Yun kept, whacking him with his ruler or whatever, which doesn't help. Don't do that. Teach him how to breathe. Well, most people don't realize that they go through the day in what really could be classified as a oxygen debt. An oxygen debt. I mean, it really works the same way with hydration. I'm drinking some orange flavored, sugar free Skittle drink packet mix here, and I start drinking that at 2:30 in the morning. I drink one when I get up to go to the bathroom at 2:30 a.m. Go back to bed. I wake up at 4:30, drink another one, get out of bed, start my day, and so by 8 or 9 o'clock, I've had half a gallon of water. So let me just take that example first. Imagine going through your day and you're not dehydrated, but you're subhydrated, for decades. Think of the little by little effects of the influence of being subhydrated for decades. Think of how it works with skin cancer. You don't walk out into the sun and get skin cancer in a day. It has a cumulative effect. With dehydration, I believe it has a cumulative effect of being suboptimally hydrated for decades, but also I think it has a cumulative effect of your brain being suboptimally oxygenated for decades. So back to the tip, I call it 3 minute mindset reset or 3 minute mind reset, whatever you want to call it, just do it. And then for your first minute, focus on just your breathing. I mean, sit and maybe look at a cloud or look at a flower or look at a candle, or you can look at a wall and just focus on your breathing. Minute number one. Minute number two, just focus on breathing while you're writing a sentence. Just some positive, affirmative, life affirming sentence for minute number two. And then for minute number three, I would engage in a bit of a spiritual practice. You can call it prayer. You can call it connecting with your creator about the breathing and what you just wrote. So step number one is breathe. Step number two is write. Step number three for me, I'm a believer, is prayer, connecting with something greater than myself. And doing that just once a day. Thich Nhat Hanh, and guys can Google him if you don't know who that was. He's basically the worldwide father of mindfulness. He founded a village in France called Plum Village. His original country was Vietnam. He was great friends with Martin Luther King, and they consulted with each other. And Thich, or Ty, as his friends called him, Thay, Ty, passed away here a couple years ago. But he said, "I'll live on through my teachings." But in the village he founded, Plum Village, they have a bell that goes off every hour, and people take 60 seconds and just focus on breathing. One of the best things you can do is start your day with breathing. Remind yourself to breathe during the day and finish your day with mindful breathing, because the thing that fuels your brain is oxygen. And most people don't give themselves enough time. And after you do it for a while, then yeah, that becomes subliminated, where it does become very automatic. Typically, though, most executives are in such of a rush, rat chase that they don't realize how shallow or how much of their life they spend with shallow breathing. So mindful breathing, mindful journaling, and mindful connecting with something greater than yourself. And for me, that's my creator.
Well, thank you. You called it the 3-minute reset.
3-minute reset.
So
Easy peasy.
Yeah, no, I like that. That one I can do. I can pick up really easily.
Yeah. Breathe, write, pray. Breathe, write, pray.
So you have a community in school where you're always sharing these kind of insights with others, and you're building a community. If you want to tell us a little bit about what that's all about, and then what is your next milestone?
Well, thanks. Yeah, you guys come join my community. It's a free membership for the time being. If you join now, it will be free for you forever. It will not always be free. It'll soon be a paid community, but we're picking up steam and offering it for the time being for people to come in and contribute, ask your questions, share your struggles, join in with some with some crowdsourced wisdom. And it is at school.com/mindset. School is spelled SKOOL. School.com/mindset. We have new down to earth shoe leather psychological guidance each and every day of the week, 7 days a week. We have 2 live streams a week, both of which Sheila's been on. The first one is Monday Mindset Mojo, 7 a.m. Elvis Presley time. For those who don't know, that is Memphis, Tennessee time, U.S. Central Standard Time, 7 a.m. till 8:30 a.m. It is recorded. You can go back and watch it later. It is a video live stream with a panel of experts in their area of life betterment, life improvement. And then on Fridays, I have Executive Espresso, which is a live stream conversation with somebody at the intersection of mindset, entrepreneurship, and innovation. And that's a short form. That's only 18, 20 minutes, something like that. Executive Espresso. We try to get in, get out, have a quick triple shot conversation, as I call it. But all this is through the Mindset Masterclass. And so hop over there to school.com/mindset, SKOOL.com/mindset, and join the community. And the next thing that I am building is a memoir and some courses. I'm about to put out a course to help people who struggle with anxiety and panic. It is called Shark School for People. A deep dive into overcoming sabotaging thoughts about anxiety and real life strategies that I have personally applied because I used to have very frequent episodes of panic. I call those EOPs, episodes of panic, and I successfully used those that I maybe one of them will start up, but it never goes anywhere, because I've learned these strategies. So you guys come over to Mindset Masterclass. The course will be put up in Mindset Masterclass. I'll also offer it through my account on X at the click of a button. And there's different levels of the course. You can get the basic 5-day email course. And then there's a deluxe level. And then if you want to go another step, a premium level that includes one-on-one time with me in a mastermind on this shark psychology for people. And so that's what I'm working on next.
Well, I love it. And I'm going to go ahead and do a feed drop, which is when we take your episode so that they can also tune in here. And I'll leave all of the URLs in the description so that you follow and find Dr. Heath. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for listening, guys.
And thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Milestone Moments in Business and Leadership. Until next time.